Hello, brothers and sisters in Christ. I hope that you are all doing well by God's grace. I have posted this picture before. I know many of my friends have seen it, but today I am going to teach the biblical principles about marriage because we've seen a lot of divorces going on in this country, and it is said that the very first divorce in the US was initiated by a woman. And until now, we have about 60 to 70% of divorces that are being initiated by women. Now, no wonder why a lot of men are not engaging themselves in marriage, because they have the fear of what would happen if they take that risk. Marriage is a risk anyway, but marriage is not for everyone, because no one knows the future. And this rate of divorce going on in this country is like people can't stand each other anymore. You just do something that I don't like, right away I start planning how to live and go find happiness elsewhere. That's why they say the grass is always greener on the other side. So, before we start this video, I want to make a disclaimer. Please and please do not use this video against your partner. Do not use this video against someone that didn't know this truth before, because all of us, let's say our generation, we were not taught the biblical marriage. Our parents used to just tell us, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, but they never tell you why they are preventing you from doing what they are saying. You know, in our cultures, African cultures, they were more close to follow biblical principles than the Western. So now that we have come in this country, everything has changed, and now we're trying to copy what the Western are providing. I think if we can go back to the African culture, a lot of things can be better. Our parents, they lived together for so long, even though their marriages, their home were not happiness every day, but at least they knew how to live with each other. It's not like they wasn't fighting. No, they were fighting day and night, and there is no marriage that has no problem. Every marriage has its own ups and downs, but people learn how to live with each other anyway, which is not the case for this generation. If you just upset your partner, the next day they start looking somewhere else to go. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So if you are not married yet, this teaching is very important for you. And even if you are married, I will advise you to listen to this video, and then you can teach this to your children. This is the true biblical meaning of marriage. So please do not use this information that I'm about to present to you today against anyone in this generation. All of us, no one knew anything about it. Even our pastors, they did not tell us the true biblical marriage. I'm not sure if they knew what it is, or they knew but they never just want to share it, because in African community, whenever you talk something about sex, it's like a taboo, they don't share it with you, this including even your parents. So for the sake of myself, I would love to tell you that this voice is not against anyone. That if you are in a relationship with someone that fit what I'm gonna tell you today, don't leave them. Don't leave them, because no one knew this truth. So let's start. Before today, we are going to have a class of sexology. Yes, sexology. A couple days ago, I saw a post someone posted. Is a family member of mine, and the post says, a woman is born with her values. That's why she has to preserve it. That is why her past matter. And then he says, a man is born with zero value. He has to build it. That is why his future matter. So when I saw it, and the poster says, I did not make this rule, nature did it. And sometimes when people say nature, they usually mean God did it. So this is a principle according to the nature. And me personally, I think this statement is partially correct, because in God's sight, both men and women are created in his image, and our worth is not based on what we do, but who we are before him. So practically, both past and future matter for men and for women, because the choices that we make shape our character, our trust, and our relationship. Remember that the choices that you make today will shape your character, will shape your trust, and will shape your relationship. Not maybe today, but maybe tomorrow. So as I'm gonna talk in this voice, you're gonna get more details about this quote right here. So what is the biblical marriage? Before I give my definition of marriage, I'm gonna start with a dictionary. We're gonna start with a dictionary. This study that I'm doing right now, it took me some time to put it together, and I tried to study what we are missing in the Bible. So I've never heard any pastor talk about it this way, so it might sound strange to you. Trying to check me out with the scripture and see if I am misquoting anything. So there are two types of marriages. The first marriage is a covenantal marriage, and the second marriage is a regular marriage. So we are going to talk about the two types of marriage: the covenantal marriage and the regular marriage. Basically, biblically speaking, every marriage happened in God's sight, but the only marriage that God binds and approves is the covenantal marriage. Let me repeat that again. Every marriage happens in God's sight, but the only marriage that God binds and approves is the covenantal marriage. So let's define the marriage according to the dictionary. Marriage is, they said, legally or formally recognized union of people, of two partners in a personal relationship. Historically, in some jurisdiction, specifically a union between a man and a woman. Dictionary is truly a dictionary. But the biblical definition, based on my study, I'm not sure if somebody else has seen it this way. Marriage is a sacred covenant between two people, of course, a male and a female, grounded in the principles of love and sealed by the physical union. That is the biblical definition of marriage. Let me repeat that again. Marriage is a sacred covenant between two people, man and woman, grounded in the principles of love and sealed by physical union. So in the Bible, the physical union plays the major part because it determines whether the marriage is covenantal or is a regular marriage. Let me say it this way. Every sexual relation is marriage in God's sight, but not every marriage is a covenantal. Let's read the book of Genesis 2, chapter 24. It says, "For this reason a man will leave his parents to cleave to his wife, and the two become one in the flesh." A man must live in order to cleave. So don't cleave before you live. I'm talking to you, my young brothers. A man must live so they can cleave. Do not cleave before you leave your parents' house. All my brothers, all the players out there, do not get yourself involved in a sexual relationship while living with your parents. You are just going around ruining a lot of young women's future. I hope you are listening to me. Whether you agree or you disagree, this is God's word. I am going to give you scripture to approve what I'm saying. So why did I choose the word cleave? Because that's the true meaning. I accept the fact that we have so many versions, but cleave is more translated from the Hebrew word, which means to stick together. A man must stick together. So, because every time you are having sexual intercourse with a woman, in God's sight, it's called marriage. It doesn't matter if she's a prostitute, it doesn't matter who she is. Every time you are sleeping with someone, that is a marriage. Let's read in the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 16. Or, do you not know that a man who cleaved to a prostitute becomes one body with her? For it is written, the two will become one flesh. So, marriage in God's sight is not when two people go sign a marriage certificate. Marriage is not when you guys are making the vows. Marriage is not when you take her to church and then the pastor pray for you and then pronounce you husband and wife. No. Two people are considered married when they cleave to each other. It doesn't matter if you sign a certificate or not. So, from this, I can conclude that sex is marriage in God's sight. We see this in the story of the Samaritan woman. When in the book of John chapter 4 verse 16, when Jesus told the lady, go call your husband and come back. And then she replied, she said, I have no husband. Jesus answered, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands. Pay attention to the word. You have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. So what you just said is quite right. So from this conversation, the reason why Jesus said you have had 5 husbands and the man you now have is not your husband is because the very first man she slept with, that is her husband by covenant. So all 6 men were married to her, but her true husband is the one who took her virginity in God's sight. This means what? If the first man she slept with is not living with her and he's still alive, she is still bound. She's still bound to him, and she's committing adultery every time she sleeps with someone. If you read the book of Hebrew, let me start with Romans chapter 1 verse 3. This says, brothers and sisters, I am speaking to those who know the law. The law has authority over someone only as long as that person lives. For example, when a woman marries, the law binds her to her husband as long as he lives. But if her husband died, she is released from the law that binds her to him. That is the reason why you can see, if you've read the Bible, you see King David, he killed Bathsheba's husband before he married her. And if you look further, you see even Abraham. This was even before the law came. Even Abraham, he denied being Sarah's husband because he knew that if the king knows that the husband is still alive and she was so beautiful, he might not sleep with her before he killed the husband. Before the law, God already put his law in people's heart. Because when Cain killed Abel, there was no law that said that shall not kill, but God's law dwells in people's heart. He knew right away that he was condemned. Remember, I just read, it says, I'm speaking to those who knows the law. And what does the law says? In the book of Hebrew, chapter 9, verse 22, the book says, and by the law, almost everything is cleansed with the blood. And without the blood, there is not covenant. Without the blood, there is no covenant. Now you understand the difference. Every sexual relation is a marriage, but not every marriage is a covenantal marriage. The only time a marriage is covenantal is when a woman sleeps with the man for the very first time, because that relation, that marriage is sealed by the blood. If you read in the book of Matthew, uh, chapter 5, verse 31, it says, "It has been said, if anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for fornication, makes her the victim of adultery." Do you understand? Here they use fornication, but in the Hebrew it's more sound like porneia in the Greek. It's porneia, which is sexual immorality, and sexual immorality is the same as fornication in the Greek word. So why porneia? Because in the Hebrew they don't have that fornication. They don't have the word fornication. She was called a prostitute. That means if you have slept with a man but did not take you as his wife, you are married to that man and you're still in your father's house, that means you are prostitute. You are a prostitute. I'm gonna give you the words that prove what I am saying. Because why Jesus gave this exception? Because he was referring to Deuteronomy chapter 24. He says, if a man married a woman, and we already know what marriage means, and finds something indecent about her, then that man will write a letter of divorce to her and send her away. So what Jesus was speaking about in Matthew chapter 5, he was speaking about Deuteronomy chapter 24. If you married a woman and you find something indecent about her, that indecent thing that they mention here is because she was not a virgin. Let's read that in the book of Exodus chapter 22 verse 16. It says, if a man seduces a virgin who is not pledged to be married and sleeps with her, he must pay the bride price, and she shall be his wife, because he is her husband by covenant. Do you understand? Now, if the father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he must still pay the bridal price for virginity. And that's the reason why I've said no virginity, no dowry. Because they were giving the dowry only when the virginity was taken away. Before you give the dowry, you have to get the proof of the virginity. Because today this dowry thing is getting ridiculous expensive. $30,000 before even you do the wedding. People are paying $30,000. Anyways, let's read in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 22, starting from verse 13. If a man takes a wife, and after sleeping with her, dislikes her and slander her and gives her a bad name, saying, I married this woman, but when I approached her, I did not find the proof of her virginity. Then the young woman's father and the mother shall bring to the town and see. She will go. You will go to the town and meet the elders at the gates and show to them the proof of the virginity. You see, here we see that a man left his house to go cleave. Men left to go cleave. The cleaving process used to be happening in her parents' house in order to get the proof. So the dowry was only given after the confirmation of the virginity. Let me read verse 16. The father will then say to the elder, pay attention to what I'm saying, I gave my daughter in marriage to this man, but he dislikes her. Now he has slandered her and said, I did not find your daughters to be a virgin, but here is the proof of my daughter's virginity. Then her parents shall display the cloth before the elder of the town, and the elders shall take the man and punish him. They shall fine him 100 shekels of silver and give them to the young woman's father, because this man has given an Israelite virgin a bad name. Now she shall continue to be his wife, and he must not divorce her as long as he lives. So, the fact that this man took the woman's virginity, it means he must marry her, because he must keep her, because the act of taking her virginity, that was the marriage by covenant, and that's why they should not divorce. So, if I'm continuing, they said, if however the charges is true and no proof of the young woman's virginity can be found, she shall be brought to the door of her father's house, from her father's house, and the men of that town shall stone her to death. She has done an outraged thing in Israel by being promiscuous. That's why I said the Greek word used fornication, but the Hebrew word, it says, she's a promiscuous. She was warring. Warring. WHORING. She was warring in her father's house. So, as you can see, when Jesus was speaking to the Samaritan woman, he told her, you have had husband, and the fifth one, the one that you have now, is not yours. Is because everyone she was sleeping with was her husband, but her true husband was the husband by covenant, which is the very first one that she slept with. So, let me try to see if we can find this one Bible verse in, I think, Malachi 2:14. Malachi 2:14 says, let me start on 13 or 12. 14. The Bible says, as for a man who does this, whoever he may be, may the Lord remove him from the tent of Jacob, even though he brings an offering to the Lord Almighty. Another thing you do, you flood the Lord's altar with tears. You weep and wail because he no longer looks with favor on your offering or accept them with pleasure from your hands. You ask, why? It's because the Lord is the witness between you and the wife of your youth. You have been unfaithful to her, though she is your partner, the wife of your marriage covenant. She is the wife of the man's marriage covenant. That means she is the first woman he slept with, and she was his first. And then he ended up going after other women and leave her. That is the problem. So By definition of the Bible, sex is marriage. Sex is not, or marriage is not just signing the paper, is not making the vows, is not or doing all this kind of stuff that we're doing today. So now, before you married, it's good to know some of these things, because right now a lot of pastors have been telling people don't have sex before marriage, you don't have sex before marriage, and those people they are telling not to have sex before marriage are already have been married before. They are already married, and when you meet a person like that, you're gonna say we're gonna wait until marriage. Waiting, the day comes, and then when you guys finish the ceremony, you go to the honeymoon, only to find out that there is not honey to the moon. The reason why people use to, I think today people are confusing between marriage and weddings. Weddings is a celebration of a marriage that already happened. The marriage happened in the secret, and then you guys, when you find like this is the one, yes, I have the proof that she was a virgin, then you come in public, they're gonna put the veil on her face. Symbolically, when you take the veil from her face, it means that you were the first one to open her eyes. That's what it means, in case some of you didn't know. That's why when people do the wedding anniversary, even though they want to do like a wedding, they have to wear the white stuff. Somehow they don't put the veil to the woman, because she has already seen the man. That's what it means. So marriage is sex according to the Bible. And if we teach our kids, if we teach the next generation to be careful, not going sleeping around with anyone, because spiritually they are tied to that person. That's why they call it spiritual tie. You are bound, you're binding yourself to someone, and as long as that person is still living, you are committing adultery, because you are not the person's wife. And this bounding thing is only applied to the woman, surprisingly, because like we read in the book of Romans chapter 7 verse 1 to 3, it says, brothers and sisters, I am speaking to those who knows the law. The law has authority over someone only as long as that person lives. For example, when a woman marries, the law binds her to her husband as long as he lives. But if her husband died, she's released from the law that binds her to him. So it doesn't say anything that a man is bound to her. It's more about the woman is bound, because the man is the one that gave the dowry. The man is the one that have the authority to choose who he wanna be with. Contrary to the country where we live right now, even women are choosing who they wanna be with. So this is the teaching that I was preparing, because this stuff of giving $20,000, $30,000 of dowry, I wanna tell you, my friend, make sure you give that much money to a person who's worth it. Because you're gonna marry someone, and then when you go there, you go do the honeymoon, you get to the moon, and then you wanna do the moonwalk. You wanna go back, because there is no honey to the moon. And some of you men, you are too lazy. You don't work on your bodies. You wait until marriage just to get there. The woman find out that, you are weak. I know some stories where people waited until that day, and then when that day came, they realized nothing was working between the both of them. Now the pastor has said no man shall separate what God has bound, but you guys are not bound yet. The binding is when you guys sleep together. That's when the binding happened. So this is the little teaching I was planning. It's just that I don't have enough time. That's why I'm making these short videos. I hope it blesses you. That's it.